Well, he told me I have 5 or 10 minutes to share how God called me into the ministry. It really started for me on the day that I was born. But like a lot of other folks, I didn't catch on until way, way, way later in my life. I went to Bob Jones University to be majoring in pre-med. For a long time I wanted to be a doctor. And then I went down there and a friend of mine said, hey, my roommate works at the farm, and that's my other passion. I love farming. And so in one day I switched my major from pre-med to farming. It's a little drastic, some people say. But that's what life is sometimes. And then I was farming in Paint Bank, Virginia, and working in a church over near Roanoke. And God started dealing with me because I had the opportunity as a young person to be involved in a youth group that had a lot of folks and had a lot of opportunities. We went on mission trips and we did ministry things and we did all kinds of stuff. And here I am teaching Sunday school in a little church and looking out at these youngsters. And teaching Sunday school for me was a tough thing to do. Very, very quiet kid when I was in high school. I didn't talk to a lot of people. I don't like people, I like animals. Simple truth. And he started breaking down my heart, thinking, you know, why are these kids any different than you? And why shouldn't they have some of the opportunities that you have? And so I went to our pastor and I said, I think these kids need to have an active youth group. I think while they're young, they need to experience the Lord working in their lives. And he looked at me and he said, great. And if God's dealing with your heart about that, maybe he's leading you to do it. That guy was he wasn't smart. I don't know. I don't have any experience with anything like that, but I started trying to help with a youth group. And the crazy thing is, my brother went to Baptist Bible College in Clark Summit, Pennsylvania to be a youth pastor. I started a youth group and he's working at the farm. Go figure. You tell me God doesn't have a sense of humor. In the midst of all that, my wife and I traveled down to Clintwood to visit, and there's this pastor that shows up. And getting the service started, and he turns around. Now, mind you, his dad's up there preaching. He turns around and invites me to come and work with him in Ohio. Now, I'm going to withhold his name to protect the innocent, but he did speak here this morning. That narrows it down a little. And I told him no, because the job that they needed was principal in Christian school. And I don't know anything about being a principal in a Christian school. And God's been dealing with me about that passage from dealing with Peter. Peter, do you love me? Are you all in?
Wow.
Are you really committed? Because if you're all in and you're really committed, feed my lambs.
Wow.
And for a year, I just couldn't let it go. I mean, over and over and over again. Are you really committed? Then feed my lambs. And so a year goes by and the same guy comes back and he's sitting there, and again we start the church service and he turns around and he says, hey, when this is over, I need to talk to you because I have a position and I'd really like you to come up and work with me. And the whole service I'm sitting there thinking, I am not a principal of a school. I don't know anything about being a principal of a school. And we get done the service and he says, we need a youth pastor. And I struggled because that's getting up in front of people talking a lot, right? And that's like way outside the comfort zone. And I went to his dad and I said, I need a little bit of advice about full-time Christian ministry. And this is what he said to me. If you can think to do anything else, then do it with all your heart. But if you can't, then do that with all your heart. And it took a few more weeks, and finally I went to our pastor and I said, I believe I need to be ordained, and by the way, I'll probably be moving soon. Got ordained, and I went up there, and I was a youth pastor for 2 years, and then they needed a principal in the Christian school again, and guess what God did? Yeah. Pretty drastic to go from pre-med to farming, pretty drastic to go from farming to a youth pastor, and pretty drastic to go from youth pastor to being a principal. But here's why I did it. I was having a really tough time, and I had told the board I don't think so, and they asked me to pray about it and then come back and give them a response. And while I was praying about it, there was a man up there who has been kind of a mentor to me. And he said, well, let me ask you a question, Rob. How much time do you get to spend feeding the lambs as a youth pastor here? And I sat down and I thought about it, and yeah, we would do summer camps and we went on mission trips and, you know, we did some things like that. But when you boil it all down, you only get them a couple of times a week. And he said, if you become the principal of the school and you teach Bible class over there, you get those kids every day. And you know what passage came back? Feed my lambs. Because you don't have sheep if you don't have lambs. And last Sunday, we baptized somebody as well, little girl in our church. Great day. Great day. He gives you the desires of your heart, and sometimes he changes those desires from the things you think you want to the things he knows are going to years down the road in ways that you couldn't even think about. He just opens your heart and you get to baptize a lamb. And it's awesome. Nothing in and of yourself. I didn't go to... Now, the good thing about Bob Jones University is if you go for any of the applied studies, you get more Bible than anybody else except for a preacher boy. And they do it on purpose. Because they said the carpenters and the plumbers and the farm managers and the electricians, these are going to be the guys in the local churches that are going to be teaching Sunday school, and they're going to be the deacons, and they're going to be the whatever. So they did it on purpose. And little do I know, right? Because I'm not a preacher boy. But he took a fear of standing in front of people and he changed it. And he took a desire to be a doctor and he changed it. And then he took the desire of a farmer and he changed it. And he made an Amos out of me. He called me from following the flocks and gathering the sycamore fruit. And he said, if you're all in, feed my lambs. And it's the best thing he could ask you to do.
Amen. Amen. Amen.